Hey nerds, and welcome to CW's Flash, Theories and Conspiracies. I'm Brian from Good Nerd Bad Nerd. This week on Flash, we got another Earth 2 villain. This time, another one of the Ramon brothers. We also got some crazy stuff happening with Barry trying to get back his Speed Force, and we did get a huge hint as to who it might be in the Iron Mask. So first, Rupture. Rupture in the comics is actually Cisco's second brother. There are three Ramon brothers in the comics. You have you have Armando and Dante, and then Vibe. He doesn't go by Cisco in the comics. It's not. But anyways, in the comics, it's Armando. In the TV show, it was Dante, and they just kind of pushed the two together. So Rupture, he was a soldier of Apocalypse. During a parademon invasion, Armando was shot, and it looked like he was disintegrated, but in reality, he was transported to Apocalypse, where he was thrown into the training pits, and he was trained to become a soldier of Apocalypse and work a dedicated soldier under General Steppenwolf. And he became what is known as a Hound. And so under the name of Rupture, he's able to travel interdimensional through any dimension he wants. And he's responsible for the deaths of thousands of freedom fighters on Apocalypse. So he has a very high rap sheet. It should be known I should point out in the New 52, the series that he was introduced in was actually written by the writer of the Flash TV show. So that's pretty cool. So he was one of Steppenwolf's best soldiers, and even after Steppenwolf was gone, he continued serving Darkseid and actually searching for Darkseid's daughter. So that's who Rupture is. He looks cool. He looked very close to the comic version of him, and I think that's awesome. And he was just a really cool character to see on the show, and it's crazy that they just killed him off like that. But, you know, that's what happens when you work for Zoom. So before we get into the Speed Force and what Barry was doing and everything that came out of that, we got a hint at who it might be in the Iron Mask. When Barry goes to get his dad and he's telling him everything that's happened and how Jay wasn't the man they thought, and he was actually Zoom, and he mentions his name is Jay Garrick, and Henry, Barry's dad, just mentions that was his mother's maiden name. So Earth 2, Man in the Iron Mask, Henry Allen is actually Jay Garrick. That's the theory. So I think what's going to happen is sometime point in this season, because we've been told Henry Allen is here to stay, he's going to be in Central City to stay. I think he's going to die at some point in some way by the end of the season. But the same actor who played the Flash in the original Flash TV series, he is the Man in the Iron Mask, so we're going to get him back. Just like we have Earth 2 Wells, we're going to have Earth 2 Henry Allen / Jay Garrick. So that's, based on the information we got, that's who I think is in the Iron Mask. What do you guys think about that? Do you agree? It seemed really heavy-handed and putting that out there for it not to be him or a possible brother. We'll see. Okay, now the Speed Force. What happened this week? So, like we've been saying, like I've shown you in the past episodes, they were recreating the experiment, and this we've seen in the Flashpoint comic series and the animated film. They were injecting him with all the chemicals, and they were trying to recreate that experiment. Did it go so well? Hard to say, but we'll see next week. But before we get into what happened to Barry, the repercussions on Earth, apart from it looking like Barry got disintegrated, Wally and Jesse, who had escaped from the Time Vault, they got hit by the dark matter wave. I'm not sure why anyone else in the room with Barry didn't get hit by it or affected by it, but Wally and Jesse got knocked down. The show writers are just screaming at us that eventually these two are going to get powers. It's not necessarily going to happen right away, and honestly, I think Jesse's going to get them first because, if you remember, she had the drug, the Speed 9X, or whatever it was called. She had that injected into her for a while, so her physiology may already be on the verge of dealing with the Speed Force and adapting to it. But season 3, I think we're going to get those two to start exhibiting some sort of powers, whatever that may be. Now the Speed Force and where Barry is. Barry's in the Speed Force. The Speed Force, it's the explanation of it that comes from DC and the DC Wiki is that although it's mostly energy, the Speed Force also possessed the ability to physically trap people. If that doesn't scream what happened to Barry, I don't know what does. But it's an extra-dimensional force that surround the universes in the multiverse. So one Speed Force interacts with all of the other dimensions, and that's probably why Barry can travel in between dimensions. So it's a force that has existed since the Lost timelines. I'm not entirely sure what those are. The Speed Force was inherently connected to the Barry Allen of all timelines in all universes. And so the Speed Force is this super powerful power force, whatever you want to call it. It's described as dangerous yet beautiful. So that's the Speed Force. That's where Barry is. This feels a lot like we're going to get him proving to the Speed Force that he's still worthy to be its avatar or to wield it. And he's going to have to prove to this entity, whatever you want to call the Speed Force, that he's worthy enough to still tap into it and use its power. So what do you guys think? Did you like Rapture? What do you think of the Man in the Iron Mask? Do you think I'm right? Do you think that's Henry, or maybe Henry's Earth 2 counterpart, or his Earth 2 counterpart's brother? Let me know what you think. Cannot wait for next week. We are at the Flash has just been getting really good, and I love that they have gone full comic book crazy with it. So until next week, this has been Brian from Good Nerd Bad Nerd, and this has been CW's Flash, Theories and Conspiracies.